Perfect. Love it.
Welcome so much. I am so happy that you're here, Diana, to the Be the Glitter podcast, where we talk about tough topics with giggles and leave inspiration that sticks. And so I'm so excited you're here because you are so good at all of those things.
Thank you. Yes. I'm so happy to be here. I could not find a better way to spend my time.
Yay. So could you please introduce yourself the way you want to be introduced? Actually, you're really good at modeling how people should introduce themselves.
Well, actually, Laura, that's a really interesting question. So I would normally introduce myself as Diana Greene, but just me and a couple of friends know that I'm going to start going by Jo Greene. So I maybe I'll take this opportunity, this welcoming and safe space to say I'm Jo Greene. I am the owner
Jo
of...
Greene.
Thank you. Yeah, I should switch my name on my account. But I am the owner and founder of DeFyne LLC, where I manage workplace conflict and work as like a mediator and an ombuds and a trainer. And if you don't know what an ombuds is, that's okay. Most people don't, but it's a certain type of conflict methodology that I work within. So I've been doing that for about 3 years. I'm a mom. I just got married in January, so I'm a wife. All sorts of good stuff. So here representing the femmes.
I love it. So, I just got so excited about your new name.
For people who are watching this, I did not tell Laura I was doing this before this. I just totally
This is how
shocked
well
her.
I handle surprise. So, have your pronouns changed as well?
No, my
Okay.
pronouns are she, her. I'm just going by Jo because it felt right. And it kind of emphasizes where I am in my journey today. So what's more queer than changing your name during Pride and
Right.
telling good friends about it. So
Oh, and thank you for calling this a safe space because I
yeah.
find that to be a huge compliment and something I strive for here. So thank you.
Yeah,
I
of
changed
course.
my name with the
Yeah.
COVID times when I changed my life all over again and was asking myself, who am I really? And
Hmm.
um, I had a lot of trauma associated with my middle name and the history behind that. So I didn't, um, I just didn't want that stuck in my life anymore. And so
Yeah.
I just had that legally changed and that felt so liberating. So
Yeah.
I can resonate with that.
I'm gonna change it on my name here. So everyone
You
sees
saw it
it.
here. You
I'm
saw
gonna
it here
rename
first,
myself.
folks.
Ready? Renamed.
Yeah.
Isn't
Uh,
that exciting? It
yes.
feels so good. I love when people call me Jo. Like I've only told a couple close friends so far and my kids and stuff, but it's just like it feels so me. It feels so me.
I can see that. I can feel it, Joe.
Yeah. Jo.
Oh, welcome, Joe.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Joe of Define, she, her, I'm a she, they,
Yeah.
of Wham Rights, where I love being a superhero for other superheroes. Let them shine, let them tell their stories. I just get to uplift that and empower them and help them help the world become a better place. And you
Yeah.
do so as well. I just love what you do with Defy. And you were all excited and glowing and just
Oh,
shooting little sparkles all out of your head when you were telling me about this incredible new service that you have to offer, right? This
yeah,
really
it's like a
cool.
framework that I'm working on. It's not even totally developed yet. So this is like, you're getting the exclusive in so many ways here. But it's called the Identity Integrated Teams Framework. And it like was born out of this idea that we want to show up to work authentically as ourselves. How do we do that, right? And how do we not just leave ourselves at the door? What's the line? When is it appropriate to bring things in? And so I have this thought partner, Laura Klosky, who works with me. And, a Wednesday night or a Tuesday night in spring this year, we were sipping on some wine in the basement office and talking about how do we I integrate our identity into teams. And we came up with this simple framework that I'm super excited to dive so deep into, but it starts with lived experience, right? That's where it all begins is what is our lived experience and how does that inform our view on life? And then it goes to identity, right? Like our lived experiences inform our identity. Um, and we had a good debate over whether our identity informs our lived experience or vice versa, but we agreed that lived experience informs identity. And then it goes to values, right? Our identity and our lived experience informs our values, and then our values inform our beliefs. And I'm not just talking about religious beliefs. I'm talking about how we believe things are going to happen, the stories we tell ourselves about other people or about other situations, and that if we as individuals lead in this direction, right? Like if we lead from our lived experiences to our identity, to our values and then our beliefs, we'll see this alignment. We'll see this coming together. We'll see authenticity coming out in the workplace. But if we were to flip that and we were to lead from our beliefs and then our values, and then our identity and then our lived experience, we'll see all these fractures, right? We'll see all these things happening in our life that don't add up, that don't make sense. And so many people lead from beliefs.
Yeah.
So many people lead from beliefs. And maybe that belief is a fear, right? We hear about leaders leading with fear and how detrimental that can be, or
Mhm.
leading from, whatever your belief systems are,
Yeah.
can be really challenging.
There's so many wonderful ways to check ourselves on our different beliefs where it's our belief about money. We've
Yeah.
created our own mythology about
Hmm.
money and what it really is. And then when we associate our relationship and our lived experience, maybe some learned behaviors with money that we need to like unlearn and
Yeah.
have a totally different mindset on, that can just change a million things, but then eh, like you're talking about just your different values about how you treat people who are different from who you are. Just
Yeah.
how you even think of what the definition of success is or community or anything. Love, all of
Yeah.
these have belief systems wrapped around that based on our lived experience. And the fun thing is we can
Yes.
actually change these beliefs, right? So we
We
can
can.
impact that whole ecosystem you're talking about there.
Yeah. And like our lived experiences, right? Like those are factual. Beliefs are not factual. Beliefs are how we've interpreted these things through these filters of identity and values, but they are not a fact, right?
Yeah.
Like that's why we call them beliefs, right? But lived experience, if we accept like a radical acceptance of what's happened in the past, right, we can change that. And then we started bringing this framework into the team oriented environment and said, what about shared experience? And
Yeah.
what about common identities? What about these values that we hold collectively, right? And what about the shared beliefs that we have, right?
Yeah.
That's what makes us inclusive. But then how do we take those individual lived experiences, those individual values, and include them in our organizations? And that's where it gets really exciting and fun because, like, you and I might sit in the same meeting and have a totally different outcome from the meeting, right? We might have individual lived experiences even though we had a common shared experience because of our
Mhm.
perceptions, because of who we are, because of all of these different things, right? Because
Different
of
things that trigger
our
us.
history. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I'm like super excited to continue developing this and talking about it and theorizing on it and challenging it and bringing it to people, bringing it to organizations. So I'm super, super pumped to be developing out a keynote and a half day workshop for teams so that they can go through and explore what an identity integrated team looks like.
Oh, that's so cool. And of course, my writer brain is all excited about like, oh, I can see like some fun like journaling activities we could do in your
Yes.
retreats. It's like,
Yes, yes. I mean, one of my dreams has always been to, like, host big retreats, I think everyone dreams about that or maybe not, but, like, having, like, a space and an ability to host people and give them opportunities to l live their life the way they choose, right? Like, give them the
yeah.
space to process, so
And to
it would
have
be
safe
fun.
work environments. So it sounds like
Yes.
what you're doing is also establishing a better framework, a better practice to bring to the workplace. So there can be more common ground, understanding, and inclusivity. So it's going to reduce conflict from the start instead of waiting for the conflict to happen and then try to figure out how to resolve it. This is like a
Yeah.
more of a preventative approach that allows everyone to have a more symbiotic relationship in the workplace, right?
Yeah, and it gives us a shared language to say, okay, so you have that lived experience that's informing your identity right now, that's informing your values and beliefs. And that's why we're having a conflict, is because I have different lived experience than you, right? Like,
Hmm.
and sometimes that brings us into conflict, right? Like,
Hmm.
take for example, someone reporting to their boss a microaggression, a person of color coming to their boss and saying, hey, I just experienced this microaggression at the hand of someone else, right? Um, that boss has a couple options, right? They might have a belief that that person would never intend harm, and maybe that person didn't intend harm, but the harm happened. So they can choose to listen to that lived experience and embrace that inclusively, right? And let it trickle down and inform their values and beliefs, or they can choose to lead from those beliefs and minimize the experience of the person who brought the microaggression to their attention. So it's like all of these different things wrapped up in inclusivity and conflict. And to me, it answers so many different things, right? To
Yeah.
me, it answers so many challenges in the workplace. And with common language, we can stop ourselves in our tracks and say, okay, this is what's happening. We can kind of come out of the emotional side of things and we can start to think about these things, right?
Mhm.
Um,
And it doesn't
and
come out of a worksheet. It doesn't it's
yeah,
not something that some Excel spreadsheet or report spitting out of Salesforce is gonna inform some CFO in a different office altogether, right? I
yeah,
think this is what I have discovered. It's just a huge issue with a lot of ways corporations are run. And, when they talk about, um, attracting and developing, retaining, and um, oh, there's another magic word in there. Their employees,
yeah,
and trying to get them
yep,
to rise up through the ranks and climb that ladder. But if they're not showing profitability on this spreadsheet, they don't look at why. They just go,
yeah,
yeah, nope, out of here, find another one. Even
yep,
though they know it's more expensive to go find another employee.
yeah,
They can say one thing and they do a totally different thing. I think works within that HR soft skill space where there can
yes.
be a beautiful, nurturing environment where part of the retention strategy, part of the development strategy is also an emotional intelligence.
Yeah, and I saw this really great, like, clip recently that talked about that turnover is the cost to employers when the culture is not good and inclusive. But the
Oh, yeah.
cost to the individual is not turnover. I mean, yes, it is the loss of their financial stability, maybe health insurance, because that's all related. But that cost is emotional damage and trauma, right? Like we experience as individuals, we bring the stress home with us. That's what I hear every day in my work is that I'm not sleeping well. I'm not communicating with my partner well, right? Like, these things stress us out and bring us more problems than just a paycheck in our life, right? We care about what we're doing in the workplace. We care
Yeah.
about how we're represented and how conflict is being resolved.
And how they're treated by other coworkers or
Mhm.
managers and so forth. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm. Oh,
Yeah.
this is magic. I am
Oh,
so
thank you.
excited that you're doing this. ah. Let me know how I can possibly be of any help. I would just love it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. I definitely wanna bring in collaborators on this because I think this is bigger than, just me or just me and Laura and a bottle of wine in the basement thinking of ways to solve the problems of the world.
And the other Laura, like,
Yes,
you're
yes,
lucky.
my
You've got a lot
Laura.
of Lauras in your life.
I do. Laura Galassi, yeah.
Lauras are luscious, we just are.
Yes, they are. Yeah. I'll support that hashtag. Hashtag Laura's are luscious.
Yes. So another question that I get asked often, and I always think of you when people ask me this question, because that you gave such a wonderful talk about how to be a good ally. And
Yeah,
so this is like a little, someone would think this is a tangent, but I think they're related because it's not, um, I think maybe people are dealing with queer people who are still in the closet in the workplace and they don't know it. And they don't know
yeah,
how often things that are coming out of their mouth or actions that they're taking are actually hurting their colleagues without them saying anything, because and actually preventing them from coming out. So um, the question is how to be a good ally, and what does allyship really mean? What does it look like? What does it sound like, to be an ally? How do they stand up and show up as an ally? Because
yeah.
people are getting my newsletter and they love it. They think it's inspirational, but if they're not in the queer space, if they're not in the alphabet gang, as my friend Yolanda Brown calls it, they don't feel like they necessarily belong, and that's the last thing I want them to feel like. I want people to understand, like, we need allies more than anything.
Yes.
Um, we need them so hard right now.
Yeah.
So,
I have so many thoughts on this.
yeah, and I apologize. I
I
just made that a really long question, which is also one of
Yeah,
my superpowers.
and my brain is just, like, firing on all cylinders right now. Like, it's just like, which part of that question do I wanna answer first?
Well, I could help you because I think
Okay.
one thing that you started with was the acronym LGBTQIA.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you said that the A.
Is not for allies. So this is something that is probably a controversial opinion, but a lot of people have debated it on the interwebs and all this stuff. But I wanted to go through and talk about allyship does not belong in the acronym, right? Like, just because I'm an ally to the Black community, I am not ever going to be Black, right? Just because you're an ally to the LGBTQ community doesn't mean that you belong in the acronym. And there's a reason for that, right? You can step away. You can choose to change your actions and be an ally, or you can choose to change your actions and not be an ally. You can't, it's not identity based, right? Like, you may identify as an ally, but you do not identify as part of the queer community. But that's also the beautiful thing about it is that allyship is an action. You get to choose to take it. You get to choose to say, hey, this group of people is underrepresented in the workplace or in my community or in my friend group or whatever. And you get to ally those people. And one of the things you were talking about is that people might be saying things to people that they are not aware of as queer, right? Like, or not aware that they're part of the LGBTQ community. And I think that's super important. Oop. I think that's super important because um it is oh no, I lost my train of thought. Okay, it's super important um because we don't know, right?
Yeah,
It's not always a visual appearance thing. And so
right.
true inclusivity needs to be built before you bring the diversity into the workplace, into your friend group, into your life, right? You need to be there and standing up for these people without it. So one thing I love to tell people is, like, if you're a true ally, share your pronouns. Like, when you introduce yourself, that is like a great signal to people who are queer, even if they're not trans, to say, "Oh, this person gets it. They're on my side. Now I can comfortably share my pronouns with them."
Yeah, it's
Right?
the
Which
easiest
could be
thing.
scary. Yeah. And there is an emotional tax being in the LGBTQ community that says, "Am I safe here being
Yeah.
myself?" Am I safe here being myself? That is a question that we will ask ourselves dozens to hundreds of times a day, right? As we move through different environments, grocery stores, workplaces, wherever you go to
Text
eat,
messages.
text messages,
Seriously.
exactly. Like it takes bravery to show up and say, "Hey, my wife and I'm not married to a woman, but my wife and I would like to come to the company party," right? And just to make sure that that's going to be okay with the person who is taking the reservations, right?
Yeah.
So it's really challenging, right, to always be the one making the first move. So as an ally, you can be the first one to introduce pronouns, to put on a pin like you're wearing today, Laura, right? Like,
Yeah.
to support in some way. I've got my little pride flag in the background right there.
Uh-huh.
Just to
I
always
was
say,
almost gonna put way too many pins on because I have my pansexual pin, and then I've
Yep.
got my, like, a million progress flag pins, and it's like, "Oh, it's
Yes.
okay, I'll just keep it simple."
Yeah, yeah, and then there's, like,
It's so
other
important.
elements to the LGBTQ world that people don't even often think about, like, when you're taking reservations for the company party, does this person have 1 partner? Do they have multiple partners?
Right.
That's something to consider. Polyamory is part of the queer umbrella, so, it is
I'm in there.
so yeah. More
Yeah.
people than you realize are.
Yeah.
It's important to think about things where when you're making a comment to say, if somebody was a part of this, am I being inclusive? I deal with this with mental health stuff too. People will make comments about diagnoses that I have to my face in a negative way, right? It's not inclusive. It's not allying the mental health space community, right? Like, so we can't just ally one group. We have to ally all groups because there's intersectionality and identities. And it is so, so, so important. And I'm not saying you should always be on guard or you shouldn't say what's on your mind, right? The thing is you should be thinking about how other people will receive your message. Um,
Yes. And as my guest D. Gray was talking about, I'm gonna put their clip up soon of them talking about this, but it we're not saying don't be uncomfortable because unfortunately, it's going to take time for everybody to be comfortable with inclusivity because there is so much learned behavior
mhm.
about being uncomfortable. There's that it's easier to like possibly just commingle with just only the white crowd at a networking event if
Mhm.
you're white, or only with the BIPOC community if you're black. It's easier to maybe be afraid of trans people if you're not accustomed to them, and therefore maybe it's
Yeah.
easier to speak out of that fear, like you were talking about before. We're not saying we don't understand why you're uncomfortable. We're saying just give yourself the credit that you're strong enough to have an open mind and be inclusive.
Yeah. Well, and make yourself uncomfortable. Make yourself the minority.
Exactly.
Go to a queer event. Show up at Pride. Learn
Exactly.
from your surroundings, right? Like,
Start
um,
with like a really fun the bingo that's going on now. There's like so many fun
oh,
drag
like drag
bingos.
bingos? Yeah.
Yes, that's like a really fun, easy way to step in, and
Yeah.
then just get comfortable. But also, we're not saying it makes sense that Dee said it better, but it just makes
Yeah.
sense, and we're recognizing, okay, we're not saying it's the easiest thing in the world, but on the other hand, it is. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
You just have to practice. We're not as awful as the evangelicals are making us out to be.
I
We're
hope
really
not.
not. I mean, we talk to our beautiful trans people in our community, and granted, this is a generalization, but every single trans person I know just wants to be seen as beautiful, cute, sweet, talented, good
Yeah.
human beings who are not aggressive. They are not violent. They are not here to cause trouble. They frankly just want to be living in peace just going about their day and like not notice that much. Like just
Yeah.
don't make a big deal.
Yeah, my partner always says that it's the least interesting thing about him. And I think that's so true, right? Like, I think
Yes.
it's so true. Like, yes, it informs your journey. These are your lived experiences, like I was talking about earlier. It informs your identity, but it's not that big of a deal, right? So, like, we
Right.
have to kind of destigmatize some of these things, and everybody, and their mother on this continent right now are talking about how this stigma is so relevant. So being an ally is choosing to step up and not believe the stuff you're being told in smear campaigns and ads and all this stuff and what's passing in the government, but going back and seeking out those lived experiences of the people that you know. And like, if you don't think you know a trans person, you probably have met one, right? Like there are a lot of passing trans people out there who again are going back to that emotional safety, that emotional tax. They're saying, is it safe for me to come out in this space? And if it's not, they're not going to tell you, right? So being that first one, listening when people are talking, things like that, right? Like is so, so, so important when
Mhm.
being an ally and listening right now. The experiences of people in this community are rough, right? Like
Yeah.
like I'm scared. I shouldn't say we're scared, but I'm scared
Yeah.
about the safety of my family. I'm scared about all sorts of things. And so listening to those experiences and understanding why, learning the history of the movement, right? Like these are things that are super important right now to do as an ally to understand where we're coming from and why we're in this spot. But also choosing joy, right?
Yeah.
Choosing
Yeah.
acceptance in like the ways that like I have a great life, like I have
Yeah.
a whole love, I have a whole relationship with my partner and recognizing that for what it is, right?
Yeah.
People say love is love all the time, but I'm like, I think the more important thing is to not sexualize the relationship and not, bring the relationship between two queer people to what happens in their pants or in their bed, but to realize that I fight with my partner. That I make dinner with my partner, that I clean my house with my partner, that we travel together. We
Yeah.
have a
You
whole
fold the
life.
sheets together. Like, it's
Yes. Well, that's his job, but yes.
all by himself.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yes. But we do make the bed together. So,
Okay.
but like, these things, it's an entire relationship, it's an entire life, and we deserve that, right? Because that brings joy not only to us, but to the community, not only to the LGBTQ community, but the wider community, right? It brings joy to the world when people fall in love, when people have community and support.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And isn't that just a much better place to live?
Oh,
In a place of joy. I mean,
yes.
I felt all the emotions. It sucks to
Yeah.
feel somehow betrayed.
Yeah.
It sucks to be
Exposed.
creeped on when someone is
Yeah.
like just being gross, when someone's being aggressive, or to be the person being the aggressor. Doesn't that just feel
Yeah.
gross? Like it
Yeah.
just it's or to just be angry. Angry is a thing, and you can talk through it, work through it. So eventually, you're not. It's a hell of a lot better to go through the pain of processing that anger than it is to sit with that and let it fester and like just get all
Yeah.
disgusting and gross and worse and bigger.
Yeah.
Smelly. Anger is disgusting, and I think
Well, yeah.
when you just when you choose joy and not fake joy, we're not talking about toxic
No.
positivity here because that smells too. It smells like really bad perfume, like the
Yeah.
kind that gives everybody a headache, and they're wondering who the hell is wearing that. Oh, it's just like
Yes.
get it out of here. We're not talking about toxic positivity. We're talking about literally just finding your heart and letting it sing a lot, let it
Yeah.
shine a bit,
Let it
because
dance.
oh my gosh, that is the best infection ever. I would
Yeah.
rather contract joy from somebody else because
Yeah.
it is just too contagious. Ah, That
Yes.
feels so good. That is the kind of goosebumps I want to feel. Like that
Yes.
is good stuff.
Absolutely. Yes. You will notice if it's bad, right? It's like stepping in shit. And then, like you said, covering it up with bad perfume, right? That's not the type of joy we're talking about. We're talking about resistance. We're
Mhm.
talking about the idea of joy as resistance and choosing to live our lives out and proud or not, if that's your journey right now. But we're choosing to find and build and live in those safe spaces when we can, when those are available. And those aren't always physical spaces, those are mental spaces, those are emotional spaces, right? And to choose joy, because that's what they're trying to take away from us.
Yep. And when we get together, literally, I honestly think when all of us bring our energy together and we keep working together and we keep finding joy together, or as my lady friend says, every act of pleasure is an act of rebellion. That's what she said. Yeah, every
Ooh,
act of pleasure is an act of rebellion right now. And I'm like, I
yes.
just love you so much.
I love that.
I
That's
know this is
so
awesome.
cool.
But, we can all do that together. We're going to create a tsunami of change.
Yeah.
Like we might feel like that one little raindrop, but you get us all together and it creates a huge, beautiful, powerful,
Dancing
you
in
know,
the rain scene.
undeniable,
Yeah.
and um I that's why I think it's so important to keep these stories coming. Keep us
Yes.
talking about all of these wonderful things to help inform everybody, but also help people feel more comfortable having these conversations
Yeah.
and get yeah,
And thinking about it from like a point of abundance, right? Like, what an abundance to have people in your life that you get to ally, right? What an abundance to have allies in our life who support us, even though they don't have to, right?
yeah,
Like, what an abundant way to live and what a great way to live. And I love it. My best friend is so tragically straight. She cannot help herself, and she's like the
I'm sorry.
greatest ally. I know, I'm sorry. She's like the greatest ally. She's like the best. Like when I told her I wanted to change my name to Joe, she immediately texted me back the name card that she had already updated on her phone. And she's like,
Oh,
"Yep, you're Joe now." And no questions asked and no
I love her.
hesitation. And I know, me too. And she's just buckets of joy all the time. And she does not center herself in the queerness that's happening, right? Like, that's another super important thing. She is there to support me, and to be there, but she doesn't center herself in the issues. She doesn't make it about herself. So it's really important to center queer people right now. It's really important to center people of color right now. It's so important to show people that you can stand back and support, and also speak up when the time is necessary.
Yeah,
So, and
so
vote.
that's and vote. Oh my gosh.
Yes,
Yeah.
vote in the
And
little elections.
all the little elections, it's all of
Yeah,
the local legislation that makes, that
impacts most of our lives. Yeah.
affects us really closely. I've too many thoughts going on in my head. I apologize that you saw a syntax error happen.
That's
One of
okay.
my guests, Erica Vogel, was saying, one of the best ways to be my ally and advocate is to stand behind me, not in front of me.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true. I completely agree with that statement. And it's not in a shame way, it's in a proud way.
Yeah. Right.
It's in a proud way. Like, I'll let you
Yeah.
fight your
Like this.
battles, and I'm gonna be there behind you, cheering you on and
Yeah.
stepping in when things will get rough.
But how easy this is. Stand behind
Yeah.
somebody and go like this with a big smile on your face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Easy.
Yeah, so connecting people to joy is also a great way to be an ally, right?
Yeah.
So many
So
good
good.
ways to be an ally. There's no one way to be an ally. People will always tell you what they need if you ask them. right? Or, well, not always, but normally people will tell you what they need if you ask them. So, really giving the person the autonomy to make decisions for themselves and be able to go in and do things, um, and
And I like your
reach out.
friend's idea, or not idea, just mode of action. I like how instead of going, "So, what do you need me to do, Joe?" She's like, um, "All right, here we go. I already
Yeah.
changed my identity card.
Yep.
Uh, let's." She's proactive, and I think
Yeah.
that's also another way to be like the best ally possible. Instead of saying, when somebody's sick, for example, like, "How can I help?" A sick person can't even understand how they need help because they're
Yeah.
just sick. So, it's sometimes when a queer person is just under attack so hard and in so much pain, emotionally or otherwise, it's really
Yeah.
hard for them to necessarily just come right
Like,
out and say
articulate.
everything
Yeah,
that
that's
they
true.
need. So that's the other thing I think helps so much is, again, listening to your heart and thinking seriously, putting yourself in their shoes and going, what would I need? What do I think is
Yeah.
actually helpful? And and just say, you know what? I'm gonna come by with some electrolytes and
Yeah.
a
Drop
teddy
them on your
bear.
door.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something, like,
Yeah.
just those little things just mean so much, and it's a much better way of actually being helpful instead of a pain in the butt.
Mhm. Yep.
So, it just takes a little extra thought. We all know how to do it. We all know how to be kind. We all know how to choose joy. We just have to make it more of a practice.
Well, and I will say, if you are questioning these things, how do I be an ally? How do I show up for the queer community? How do I not put my foot in my mouth? You're already like 80% of the way there. You're
Yeah,
already putting in the thought. Now you just need that 20% of action, right? And you will thrive. You will
yeah,
thrive.
love it. I just love this whole
Absolutely.
thriving thing and joy thing.
Yeah, I know. We need a little thriving joy in our lives.
Let's spread a lot of that. See?
Woo! I mean, we're on the Be the Glitter podcast.
Right?
I would expect no
You will
less.
thrive. You will thrive. You will thrive.
Yeah,
Everywhere.
and, like, it's interesting because, like, growing up, we didn't see people in the LGBTQ community thriving, right? We saw pain, we saw AIDS, we saw discrimination, we saw all of these different things, right? So, like, now to get to be those successful people, to see what they have left for us as a path to walk to get to a successful life, right? Like, that's amazing. And I'm,
Yeah,
like, so grateful for that. I mean, Pride Month is so funny because it's a celebration, but it started as a riot, like, it started
yeah.
as a protest. It started as self-defense. And
Mhm.
so, like, to see now that we get to have joy and all these things, and yes, people are always gonna try to threaten that, but we can rise above it, right? Because people have walked before us.
Mhm. Yeah. And I'm going to bring up all my guests now because they're just so inspirational, which is why they were
Yeah.
on here. But I love how Allie West said, um, you know, if, if you have a problem with me, like, no, that's your problem, not mine. Like, I
Yes.
just want to live my life. I'm really sad for you that you don't love yourself enough. Like,
Yeah.
just
Yeah. And
so
it's
find love for yourself first and then love everybody else. And, that's where the joy happens.
yeah, absolutely. I would tattoo that on my body.
And I think that brings me to like self care. I think that is just so important for everybody, but especially in the workplace. I think that gets thrown in the trash so often. It's so easy to just produce, 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 and try to get the numbers to the manager who's got to get it to,
Yep.
keep pushing it up the ladder,
The grind.
the grind. And, when you're just feeling like a cog in the wheel, it's really difficult to take that time for the mental space that you need and even just the physical self-care that you need. And I don't know
Yeah.
if that becomes part of the conversation where we're talking about creating safe space in the workplace.
Yeah. It does. And I oftentimes put my roll my eyes at self-care, right? Because I'm like, "Oh, yes, I can take 5 baths this week and I will still be stressed out to the max, and now that the baths aren't relaxing me, I'm more stressed out taking a bath because this is supposed to help, or
Here,
taking a long walk, or meditating, or drinking too much wine, or any of these
I'm
things,"
trying
right?
to
Like
grab my massage ball. Oh yeah, here. I like to play with these things.
yeah. Yeah, so, like, self-care doesn't always work, but it works sometimes, right? And so, like, what I always like to think of is how or what do I need to feel safe right now?
Yeah.
What and how do I need to process? And then how do I reconnect with my loved ones and myself, right?
Mhm.
Those are the things that really truly get me. So it's like, yeah, if work's not a safe space for you, you're already losing out on that first thing because you can't sit there and process what's happening to you if you're not in a safe space. You have to wait till you're a safe space to do that, right? And that might be a physical safe space. Again, that might be a mental safe space, emotional safe space, right? Um, so work can be a safe space if there are allies, right? Work can be a safe space if someone's speaking out for you or including you before they even know, right? You will make
Right.
bonds with those people. Like,
Right.
you call it the alphabet gang, but it's true. You see an LGBTQ person across the table and you're like, oh, I'm going to go sit with them because I think we're going to have something in common. We're going to have a shared identity. We're going to have shared lived experience, right? So,
Or sit next to my, favorite Brazilian boy, or,
yeah,
sit next to the beautiful black woman with the gorgeous braids in her hair. I think
yeah,
it makes so much sense when we can you hear me?
yeah.
Okay, good. My earpods are starting to get mad at me.
Oh,
But yeah, because it's not that we all have the same lived experience, but we can potentially understand what it's like to um, not fit in as easily
yeah,
as
be an
others.
outsider. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think it's super important to have those like to create those safe spaces where you can in your friend groups, in your chosen family, in your family. I think that's extraordinarily important, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
That people can have spaces to decompress and process and relax and reconnect, right?
How
Um,
can our brains work properly if we don't give ourselves that
yeah,
or give each
yeah,
other that?
yeah,
You know?
and if there's conflict with identity in the workplace that you're experiencing, that's like micro traumas all day long, you know? Like, that's just that constant emotional tax. It's, understanding that experience is hard if you've never experienced that kind of outing before, you know?
Mhm.
But it is so it's important to find that where you can find it. If you can't find it, I'm always a safe space. Laura, I think you're always a safe space.
I
I
am.
mean, there's some people out there in the community, big or small, that are always happy to be a support system for each other because we know we're all at different phases and stages of our life, you know?
Mhm. Yep. I always like to offer a walk and talk.
Yeah.
Even if it's just us putting on our AirPods and having a conversation while we're literally walking around where so you could be in New York and I
Yeah.
could be here in Madison. We can have a
Yep.
walk and talk. Oh, that just works so well for so many
Yes.
reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. So finding those conversations, finding those hugs, super
Mhm.
restorative, right?
Virtual self hugs, all the
Yeah.
ways. Yes. Even dog hugs totally
Yeah.
help.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, this is so great. So, if I could ask you this tough question, I know this is hard for you.
Okay.
I'm going to ask, what is it that you need? and from whom?
Oh. Oh, yeah. What is it that I need? I
You give so
short-circuited.
often.
I short-circuited right there. There
I knew
a
you
really long pause. Um,
were.
well,
Ask
this is
for what
kind
you want.
this is kind of like being an ally. I have an idea. So I am no, that's a bad idea. I take it back. I need people to talk to about this identity integrated teams framework. I need people to brainstorm it with me and to hear about it and to learn. So if people want to reach out to me and have those conversations with me, I'm still in the development phase right now. But I would love to talk about it and get your insights. And I think that's what I need. That's what I need right
Awesome.
now.
Oh, that's fantastic. And how did they reach out to you?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, I am still Diana Green. And I might be Jo Greene someday on LinkedIn, but for now it's Diana Green. And my email is just Diana@defyne.work. So Diana DIANA at defyne DEFYNE.work WORK. So if people would reach out to me, I would be so excited to grab a virtual coffee or do a walk and talk or whatever it is that, makes you happy and have those conversations.
Oh, that's awesome. And this one's not going to be hard for you. I'm letting you off easy. This is my favorite part of the podcast.
Okay.
Who do you want to give gratitude to? Who deserves some shout outs?
Um, I would love to give gratitude to my collaborative partner, Laura. The other Laura, Laura Kolaski. She just makes my visions come to life and she challenges me in ways that I am so grateful for because we get so much done in a short period of time. And I'm just, I'm really grateful to have a friend in her. And
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that Laura's are luscious. Hashtag Laura's are luscious. And I'm super grateful for you too, Laura.
Oh,
So,
thank
yes, this is
you.
wonderful. This
Thank
was
you so
wonderful.
much. I am
Yeah.
so grateful for you. Thank you so much for everything that you do. I'm grateful for everybody in the future who works with you.
Ooh, what a nice thing to say. That's a wonderful way to leave things.
It's just going to make a beautiful ripple effect across the world. Why
Oh, I
wouldn't
hope
it?
so. We're changing the
Yep.
world one podcast at a time. I love
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. What a wonderful time.
Thank you. And you take good care of yourself, okay, please?
Yes, absolutely. Always.
Okay. Bye.